Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and today is Sunday, so of course it's time for the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. We have another short week this week. We actually only watched 3 movies this week. We spent a bunch of our time watching Heidi and Dark, as you guys know, the series that we're working on. But boy, the 3 movies we watched this week were 3 really great ones. The first one, we watched a film called Invention for Destruction, which is a Czech film from 1958 by a guy named Karel Zeman. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but forgive me if I got that wrong. We found this one just by cruising around on the Criterion Channel app. I know I'm always talking about how great the Criterion Channel is. I swear I'm not an employee of theirs or paid anything for saying that. I just think what they have done in terms of putting together a collection of incredible films and making them available for streaming through their app is amazing. But not only do they have the best of art house and independent and foreign and older movies, the really cool thing about the Criterion Channel is they also curate everything. So you can kind of search by type, or, you know, if you click on one movie, there's all of these bonus features and discussion videos and behind the scenes technical videos and other things to explore once you're on the one video. And it's really cool because you can go into it with sort of like, well, I don't know what my mood is, but let me just kind of cruise around a little bit. And it's really easy to get pointed at some really phenomenal films that I've never heard of before. And I consider myself fairly well schooled in film history. But this one just completely passed me by. So again, it's called Invention for Destruction. It's Czech. It's from 1958. It's considered the most successful Czechoslovakian film ever made. Again, I've never heard of it. And what this filmmaker did was he was super inspired by the works of Jules Verne. And so he decided to set out to tell the story. It's one of Verne's books. I can't remember which one is the basis for this movie, but he actually mixes in story elements from other Jules Verne books as well. But what he did was he wanted to capture the look of the Victorian line engraving illustrations that you would see in books of the time, of course, the 1880s, 1890s. And so what this film is it's a black and white movie with live actors, but then all of the backgrounds and sets and other things that are happening are animated. And it is unbelievable to watch, you guys. It is just, I was sitting there with my mouth hanging open watching this movie, just going, oh my God, look at that, you know, painted texture on the wall of that building, or look at this totally constructed ship set that these guys are on that's not a real ship at all, but they've managed to animate it in such a way that it looks real. But it looks real in the sense of if you were really in one of those Victorian engraving illustrations. It doesn't look realistic by any stretch of the imagination. But what he's done is he's really made it feel like, again, a Victorian engraving just come to life. And it is so cool to watch and to try to figure out technically, you know, how did he do this? How did he do that? It just blew my mind. The story's also pretty good also. It's about a mad scientist who has a doomsday machine, and there's a group of pirates who want to get the doomsday machine, and there's a lot of conflict there. And I don't want to say too much about the plot of this movie because it is such a feast for the eyes in terms of how the animation and the sets and everything are done. I want all of you to watch it. It is incredible. I don't know if it's available anywhere else except the Criterion Channel, but for my money, I would get the subscription to the Criterion Channel before I got any other streaming service. I'd put it ahead of Netflix or, you know, Hulu or any of those other ones. Because again, not only do they have just this incredible catalog of old and weird and art house and independent movies, but they also do this awesome curated thing where once you find one thing you like, it's really easy to follow those little, you know, trains through it. But it's not just pointing you at other movies. There's director commentary, behind the scenes stuff, interviews with various directors and people who've worked on various films. It's really, really cool. And then they also do like monthly features. So this month they're having a feature on the Australian new wave of cinema, which includes Mad Max. So I haven't even clicked on it yet, but I'm super excited to see what are the extras that they have off to the side of Mad Max, right? So anyhow, Invention for Destruction, 1958 by Carol Zeman. Check it out. Find it. Go get yourself a Criterion subscription, or maybe they probably have a free trial thing where you could just watch this movie if you wanted to. But man, it blew all of our minds. We were just sitting there, eyes wide open, just like, wow, look at this movie. It is crazy, unbelievably good, just visual amazingness. Again, if you like animation or those old-timey illustrations, you will love this movie. I guarantee it. So the next night after that, Sean said, okay, that was so great that you found that on Criterion. Let's take another spin through this app and see what we can find that would be cool to show the kids. And we kind of immediately saw that they had added some Jackie Chan movies to the collection. And we took a quick spin through what Jackie Chan movies they had on offer. And we saw that they had Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, which is one of my favorites. It's one of Sean's favorites. The kids had never seen it. And so we were like, that's what we're watching tonight. So if you haven't seen Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, it is from 1978. It is the movie that came out right before Drunken Master, which is probably, for a lot of people, that's like the best known early Jackie Chan movie. So Half a Loaf of Kung Fu is very much in the same style, the kind of comedic slapstick kung fu movie. It's not overly serious at all. Jackie Chan plays a young kind of cocky acrobat who just really wants to like study kung fu and practice kung fu. And he keeps trying all these different ways to get a master or find out the techniques or whatever. There's like an evil witch at one point and like a kung fu guy with like a crazy whip. There's a bunch of cool characters in this one. There's almost too many cool characters and you kind of don't get to know who they all are. They kind of keep coming pretty fast, but it's pretty great. There's a couple really, I mean, you know, it's a Jackie Chan comedy kung fu movie. So the fight scenes are incredible. His way that he has about doing the comedy kung fu acting it's so good forever. Obviously. This movie features a couple of really great little kind of plot points. At one point, he's, like I said, he's trying to learn Kung Fu and there's like a book of, you know, secret moves that you can do. And the book gets like spread, all the pages from it get spread out across the battlefield at one point. And he's running around like picking up the individual pages, looking at them, learning, you know, a new move from just these scattered pages. At one point, he looks at one of the pages upside down. So he does the Kung Fu move upside down, which is pretty great. There's another part where he actually like attacks a guy with his own wig, which is really funny. I'm not going to say too much more about the specific fight stuff, but if you like Jackie Chan, if you like Kung Fu movies, if you like older, really funny Kung Fu movies, this movie is kind of making fun of Kung Fu movies also. It's self-conscious about the genre, but it does it in a really good, really funny way. So highly recommended if any of the things I just described are the type of thing that you are into. If you've never checked out any of Jackie Chan's earlier movies, I would definitely recommend Half a Loaf of Kung Fu and Drunken Master side by side. They're incredible. He's got a huge catalog and I'd recommend most of them, but those are the two that I kind of like start people if you've never like dipped your toe into the genre. Great place to start both of those movies. So that one, again, was on Criterion Channel, so there's another plug for that service. I believe that's available in a bunch of other places on the web also. Kind of funny thing was we actually got to watch it in Chinese with subtitles. Most of the Criterion films are done that way, but of course, if you grew up in the 80s watching Kung Fu movies, they were always dubbed. So it was pretty wild I think it was the first time I'd seen it, not the dubbed version. Very different to actually hear the actors' voices and everything. So Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, totally recommended. 2 thumbs way up from us over here. The third thing we watched this week was on Western Wednesday. We finally got a chance to show the kids The Wild Bunch. That is the 1969 Sam Peckinpah late Western classic. I say late Western. It takes place in the early 20th century. I think like 1915 or so is when this one actually takes place, which is much later time-wise than any of the other Westerns we've been watching. In fact, this movie has a car in it as one of the plot points, which is pretty surprising to see a car in a Western movie. This is the one starring William Holden and Ernest Borgnine as they're like two old guy bandits who are, they want to pull one last job and then retire. And the opening of the film is an incredible robbery slash shootout scene. It's just dynamite. It's such a great opening scene. And they pull off this whole robbery and they take the bags of coins out to the desert to divvy them up, and they've been totally tricked. It was all a setup. The bags are full of washers. They haven't gotten anything. So they still need one more score before they can retire. And through a couple of different plot elements, they wind up hooked up with a local Mexican general named General Mapache, who is like fighting against Pancho Villa's guys. I think I might be wrong about that detail. But anyhow, General Mapache wants to score some weapons off of an army train that's going to be coming through town. So our guys in the Wild Bunch agree to rob the train and bring him the guns. And this is going to be their, they're going to do it in exchange for gold. And this is going to be their big last score, so that they can then, finally retire. The train robbery scene is great. I don't want to say too much about it, but it's like the center of the movie. And then once they have secured the weapons and brought them back to the general, there's a couple of pretty intense, pretty great scenes featuring a military artillery piece machine gun that needs to be like mounted on a tripod. Again, there's a bunch of Westerns, maybe a dozen, 24 that have Gatling guns or machine guns in them, but it's not the most common thing to see in a Western that's usually full of rifles and pistols and shotguns. So the presence of the car and the machine gun they definitely set it as a later period Western. I don't want to say how it ends. Of course, I want you guys to watch the movie instead of just listening to me blah, blah about it. But it's got a pretty incredible climactic final scene with a kind of surprising ending. Again, I don't want to say too much about what happens there, but it's an incredible film. It's interesting because it is looking at older cowboys and also at the end of the cowboy era. So it's kind of mirroring itself with are we done with this kind of themes. It's got really interesting editing. The fight sequences, it's like they did takes from all these different angles and then super quick cut them together, but it doesn't feel like more contemporary quick cut editing. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's quick cuts from the late 60s, which feels very different from the sort of quick cut style that we saw really develop in the mid 90s through the early 2000s. I feel like it's very, very effective in The Wild Bunch. I think that Peckinpah worked really closely with the cinematographer and the editor to make sure that all of those really intense fight sequences, it's kind of like you keep switching perspective and coming from different angles, just like the bullets are flying from all these different angles and this sort of chaotic nature of these gunfights. They're really big in this movie. They get a lot of people involved with them. It's not the stoic Western with just, two guys dueling with pistols in front of the main street or whatever. Definitely more intense than that type of thing. It gets a little slowed down in parts, but I don't think that the plot suffers from it at all. The version we were watching, once again, did not supply English subtitles for the few scenes that had Spanish dialogue, which is surprising because I feel like the subtitles should be part of the movie. There was enough Spanish dialogue that it's like, again, I understand Spanish, so it's not a problem for me, but I was having to explain to the kids what the people were saying. And then when we attempted turning on the subtitles just through whatever streaming service we were using, we got actual like closed caption subtitles in Spanish, which is more helpful than just saying, parenthetically speaking in Spanish. But I don't know what's up with these streaming movies that have multiple languages in them, but then no subtitles for the other languages. So maybe I'll research about that. Maybe not. Who knows? So that's it for this week for Cinema Club. Like I said, only 3 movies, kind of a short week. Next week, I know that we are watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid for our Western Wednesday feature, which I'm super excited about. Of course, as I've been for all of these Western movies, we are approaching the end of our original list of 13 movies, but don't you guys worry, I have a extended version of the list because I didn't want to overpower my kids with too many Westerns, but they have proven they are way into the genre. So we'll come back to the concept of the extended list probably next week as we approach the last movie on the original list. So that's our big plan for this week coming up. Also, oh, I was going to say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that's August 18th. Mark your calendars, guys. That's the day to watch that movie. So we're not quite to that day yet, but coming up in just a few weeks. I don't know what else we're going to watch this week. I guess we'll have to wait and see. What did you guys watch this last week? I'm always curious to find out. Of course, leave me a comment down below or on any of my other social media channels. You guys know where to find me. All right, that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone out there stays safe and takes care. And I will see you guys in a few more days for another episode of my vlog. Thanks so much.